for joining me for the third part in my series reviewing the entire Mission Impossible franchise leading up to Mission Impossible Fallout. So I dropped the first review 2 weeks ago, but then a bunch of life happened last weekend and I did not get the review out for Mission Impossible 2. So I'm doing something I've never done before on my channel. I'm dropping 2 reviews at the exact same time right now. So if you're watching this one and wondering, hey, why didn't you review part 2? It's live on my channel right now, so go ahead and watch that one, then come over to this one, or do whatever you want. You can watch this one too, if that's what you'd like to do. So with that said, let's just start talking about this movie. So the second one wasn't particularly well received by audiences, but it made a ton of money. So they started production on the next one, but they had all sorts of kind of development hell type issues come up. So it was delayed for years until it was released. And initially, David Fincher was hired to direct the movie. And then that fell through over creative differences. And then they brought in Joe Carnahan. He was going to make the movie. They cast Kenneth Branagh as the villain. Scarlett Johansson was going to be in it. And then creative differences happened. Once again, he drops out. Tom Cruise discovers this guy out there called J.J. Abrams that had never directed a movie before, but was working on this TV show called Alias that was a spy show. It was very cinematic. He binge watched 2 seasons and was like, I want this guy to direct my movie. So he hires him, but because he was so active involved in Alias as well as the show Lost, they had to delay for a year. And so then Kenneth Branagh had to drop out, and then Scarlett Johansson had to drop out. But then 6 years after MI2 came out, this one was finally released in theaters, and the very first J.J. Abrams film was brought upon the world. Whether you love him or hate him, this is where his cinematic directorial career started with this film. So with that said, let's dive into it and start talking about the good. So for me, the best thing about this movie is that J.J. Abrams knows how to make a movie that just has a energy driving it forward. All of his films just kind of have this pushing urgency to the story. There's always some conflict in each scene that makes it move forward. That movie, they are all high energy, quickly moving, fast-paced, and just jam-packed with entertainment value, whether that's jokes, action sequences, tension, wacky characters, characters that just drive you crazy with how they're by their book, or whatever it is. And that's all. You see it in this movie. It also has an amazing cast. Now, all of these movies have had pretty well amazing casts, and this one, you almost forget how good it is because it just everybody, even Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad is the little brother of Tom Cruise's fiance in the movie. Like, that's like who their little side actors are in very small roles. It's Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad. And then you got, Philip Seymour Hoffman playing the physical threat to Ethan. You have Laurence Fishburne in here as a character that's a bit of a red herring, but just being kind of the dead serious spy guy that's in the office that just drives you crazy throughout the movie. And the whole movie is just populated by great actors, whether character actors or big name actors throughout the entire movie. JJ also knows how to make action sequences themselves just have a vibrant energy to them. Even in this movie, there's a sequence where it's like a single take long action sequence thingy, but the action is just Tom Cruise running. And it's still very exciting just to watch Tom Cruise run down the street fast through a market. And it's always fun to watch Tom Cruise run. There's something about the way he runs that just makes it fun to watch. But just with the crane shot, the vibrance to it, he makes it all exciting to watch. He also brought in some of his tricks that he used on Alias and some kind of out of order storytelling. I guess some of it's they Hitchcockian in a certain way of you show where we're going at the beginning of the movie to make you go, oh, that's not good. And so you just always have this sense like you spoil something that happens much later in the movie that makes you go, this is really bad. The stakes really matter. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get to that point in time? And so you show people it so that we know, the audience knows that this is going to happen. And then we show our characters without that knowledge that we have in normal life and watch as things kind of start to unravel all along the way. And so even when you're in a scene where there's no bad stuff happening, you still have this sense of like, but I know it's going to get bad. I know where we're going to end up. And so just little tricks like that JJ uses to really nicely inside of the story. Once again, it's a very different movie from the 2 previous movies. Whereas the first one is like very spy movie and espionage. It's not about Ethan shooting guns and throwing a bunch of cool kicks and shooting anything like that. It's spy stuff and trickery. Second one doesn't have all the spy stuff, but it's like this romance things going on, and then big, gigantic action stuff's going on. Weirdly light on spy stuff. This one is big on action and has the schemes and stuff, and it has little spy missions, but it's the team working together, like the old TV show. It's not Ethan being disavowed or all on his own. It's like him with the actual Mission Force team trying to get Philip Seymour Hoffman, and then trying to get the Rabbit's Foot and all sorts of things like that. And so just in some ways more spy-y than the original one, but in other senses, much more of an action movie than even the previous two. So very interesting change in direction. And the ones since then have kind of stuck to the template of this film in a lot of ways. It's mix of spy stuff, action, team working together. So that works nicely for the film. All right, from there, let's move on to the bad aspects of this film. And I think the biggest issue that I have with this film, and it has pretty big effects on the film as a whole, is that there's way too much plot in this movie. There's way too many plot lines going on. And if you interpret it through the grid that J.J. Abrams is coming from a television background, and when he's trying to develop a story, it was a season of Alias, which is a fast-moving show where you got 22 episodes per season. So that's about 17 hours of television once you take commercials out of it, something like that. And then you've got 2 hours to tell a story. I think this movie makes a little bit more sense as to why so much stuff is going on. But I mean, right out of the gate, you've got Ethan is engaged. Ethan is. We know Ethan's girlfriend's going to be kidnapped at some point in time. We know that he's no longer in the field. He's training people. And we know that he has some sort of specific relationship with the Felicity character, Felicity being Keri Russell's character from a J.J. Abrams TV show that she was on. And so, this is just the setup at the beginning of it before we even get to Seymour Hoffman. Oh, yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this one. And so then he has this thing called the Rabbit's Foot that he wants. He's like this spy arms deal guy that they need to get information from. He's going to kidnap someone. And you've got Laurence Fishburne in the mix, and we're like, is he good? Is he bad? Which side's he on? Is he a mole? Is he not a mole? Is he just a jerk? Is he a good guy? And when you have this many plot lines, as you're going through the movie, we don't know what we're supposed to lock in on. We don't really know what the story is. We know spy things are happening. We're moving quickly between all of them. Each sequence in and of itself is exciting, but it feels like, okay, where am I going? And I know that someone's going to get kidnapped later on, and how are we going to get back to him? And why are we talking about so much about marriage and what's going on? And that's a problem. And I think that kind of diminishes the movie a good bit, that I never feel like I'm locked in on a storyline. I'm on the roller coaster ride of the whole thing, but I don't feel locked in on a storyline that I'm particularly invested in. Even though the individual sequence work, the characters work, the sequences, characters work, but the story as a whole is just moving so fast that I think you lose something in the mix of it all. And that's frustrating. It's not boring. It can be a little bit confusing, and it can be a little bit unsettling to see where we're going. Another kind of issue in this one that's going to be true of the later ones as well is that there's this tendency in this series to constantly have Ethan being disavowed, being cut off, going rogue, and doing his own thing. That's this major thing that they keep doing in the franchise, that it just, at a certain point in time, you're just like, why does this keep happening? Why do we keep repeating this same beat that there's the by-the-book guy that Ethan has to rebel against and do his own thing, and the guy's trying to hunt him down even though we know he's right, and it's not that the guy trying to hunt him down is actually bad. That's what happens in the first movie. It feels different. It kind of plays out differently. But I think even in both of them, there's there are red herring characters. It's suggested that they're the mole when they're not the mole. There's all these sorts of recurring little beats between them, even though they're wildly different movies, that wish they hadn't done so much of that in this franchise, and they could have found some more new directions to take things. But that's really the only negative. Now, that's a the story has too much story is a big one, but those are just the only two real issues I have with the film. So I'd score this movie a B and give it an 8 out of 10 on the entertainment meter. There's definitely some story issues going on, but the entertainment value is absolutely there. That just kind of sucks you into the movie so you can have an absolute blast watching this one. How about you? What do you think about this one? Tell me down below in the comment section. Do you love it? Do you hate it? All that fun stuff. This one also came out at an interesting little time in Tom Cruise's career because it was like at the peak of Tom Cruise public crazy, and he was making all sorts of crazy stuff, jumping on couches, and so I think that hurt the box office for this one, especially in the United States, because people are like, what's wrong with Tom Cruise? When did he go bonkers? He's probably always bonkers. He just wasn't publicly bonkers. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button to movie reviews, TV reviews, ranking videos. But the key thing is I don't want to just talk about movies. I want to talk about movies with you. So please join me down in the comment section. Let's have a lively discussion. Talk about this fun franchise. I enjoy these ones quite a bit. And as always, thank you for watching.